Lord, I come to you today empty, an unloaded weapon in your arsenal of word assassins. You've built me with an assault rifle lodged in my throat, gave me a microphone as a scope and a hair-triggered tongue. So now I'm asking that you load me with shell cases of content so that I may engage the target audience with high-caliber poems. I'm asking that you allow me to place my crosshairs across the ears of the heavy-hearted and have target practice with their turmoil. Lord, I ask that you medicate these poems and rub them across the neck and the chest of the vexed like Vicks so they may breathe again. There's oxygen in exhilarating words, and I vow to be the breathing machine for every lung in need. Today and every other day. With tremendous gratitude I pray. Amen, amen, and amen. Who needs penicillin when this pen is healing? Poems are a byproduct of an unregulated antibiotic. The narcs call it narcotic. The cops searched the car. Every compartment found countless ink cartridges, called it in. Sergeant said, charge him, haul him in, bring him to the precinct. He's too lethal with the pen ink. Book him and bring me his notebook. Take every note that he took and log it into evidence and check it daily, 24-hour watch. We need the hands of time to have all 10 fingers on this one. And hey, regardless of his good behavior, no bail. We're not handing out peace prizes. If you give this guy a thimble of hope, he'll sew a thread long as a home loan document, and listeners will lend their ears. They'll willingly pay interest. You may not have heard, but word on the streets is this guy runs every word on the streets. If a nickel poem is sold in the park, he wants in. What we've learned is his quotes rolled in rolling papers will disrobe folks. Even if he writes with his left, that secondhand smoke is just as potent. This guy needs his head appraised. Actually, we think he has his hand patented, so other penmen can't forge his signature style. This guy, he's a mood, so we need to remove him or he'll take over the moon next. And listen, whatever you do, send him to his cell, but do not put him in pinstripes because he'll figure out a way to make them right. So you're laughing, but this guy, he can't even stay wrong long before he's, well, you know, right. Just don't let him write, okay? And I know I may sound like a dick, but we have no defense against his right wrist. No pun. Yeah, just don't give him a pen. Welcome to the Brain Dump series. The next poem will begin in. I felt like no aspect of my life was being lived for me. Yeah. Everything that I was doing was in support of an organization. So what am I here for? When this ends, then what? I went home that day, started writing. Over the next 30 days, I wrote 2 of what I consider poems. I went back a month later, signed my name on the paper, went up there, left Earth, never came back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As men, we pump iron to build our bodies, large and small buildings. Statue like a stack of bricks. Pecs like twin pyramids. I can give a tutorial on how to build pectorials. Biceps bulging, hard as cedar blocks, backs broad as a U-Haul, seemingly built to haul burdens, strong as an ox. So if you ever catch us in a wrestling match with a grizzly, don't help us, help the bear. But weak as wet tissue when it comes to wrestling resistance. When home with our own Lois Lane, we claim to wear the cape, but these sexual desires be like kryptonite to a Superman. From preachers to politicians, that P word is like music to our penises. We'll sing lies to our wives. We'll risk our employment. Blue-collar workers couldn't even collar a fix. The construction guys, they erect skyscrapers, but when erect, they can't build a wall thick enough to ward off their flesh. Lust is the wrecking ball that ruins destruction in most households. It's that problem that we don't see in the family pictures, the automatic payday for the divorce lawyer, ruined hope for the hopeless romantics. And if you think you need to be more cautious of our co-workers, you couldn't be closer to wrong. The biggest culprit is a little closer to home. Porn is your biggest opponent. We don't even have to leave the house. We bring the home wrecker home with us. She sticks us up and then boom, jacks off our resistance. So a few soft nights had you thinking she was impotent. The truth is just into porn, so now I'm too tired to enter you. They call the bathroom a man's throne because that's where we play with our scepter. We'll shoot semen in seconds and then force you to accept sexless nights. Our flesh is way more of a flex than our biceps, even when with you, our eyes roam like Italy. A woman's body becomes our tour site. Within seconds, we'll look away to conduct a site survey. We've perfected the use of our peripherals, and no matter how ill-mannered these mannerisms may seem, these things don't come guilt-free. On a daily, we're devoured by our conscience, but a sexual stronghold is like Satan's handcuffs, and only heaven holds the key, and we'll remain in bondage until we ask to be freed. But it's hard to voluntarily forfeit a feeling that you live for. I can recall being 19, leaving the clinic, freshly discharged after being treated for discharge. I was reckless with no regard, infectious because my erection hindered my ability to exercise wise discretion. My only prerequisite was a wet entryway. I wonder if God purposely made the words hormone and whoremonger sound similar. I wonder if he knows that most men have a certain amount of damage to their left brain, the side that sides on the side of logic, and then that right brain is just used to concoct creative ways to get laid. Lust is that leash that we wear daily like neckties. It's been part of our wardrobe since we found those porn tapes in the top drawer. No, don't blame this on a generational curse. We weren't born with this thing in our bloodstream. We weren't born overly horny with porn addictions. The curse was perpetuated through poorly hidden paraphernalia that falls into the palms of developing children, now developing adulterers, in some cases developing sex offenders, developing divorce dates decades before the I-dos are even documented. And now our seeds are being cultivated in a hypersexual society that forces them to explore it before even searching for it. The cliche says, sex sells. The revision should say, sex sells souls. And the next point will begin in 5. So right now I'm just in that space where I want to be absolutely selfish. My goals are my priority. And whatever I need to do that, I want to be able to do that without having anybody else's heart dependent on my actions. I've been alone for so long. This is what I do best. This poem was highly influenced by a lot of my father's experiences, and he's never heard it. So right now what we finna capture is whatever his natural response is to this poem. We'll see it. I felt like it'd be a whole lot better if he was here with me. 4, 3, 2, 1. Once upon a time, my father, he was diagnosed, he was possessed with cancer. Reoccurring appointments to the chemotherapist to try to exit it through exorcisms. Despite his demons, his spirits remained high as heroin and helium in a hot air balloon. See, my father's one who smiles like his mouth had never been taught an alternative. Things can be all left and he'll downplay the stress like he's all right. But he's a talker. I'm telling you, he's a caravan for conversation. He will transport Southern slang from the bayous of Mississippi to the pop blocks of Los Angeles. The man was born with 2 tongues. He has a motor in his throat. He will talk a set of teeth to death, which means they'll literally be dead when he's done. So whenever he calls, just be prepared to funeralize the rest of your day. But life has made him a pallbearer for bad news. He stores it in a cargo area of his throat and delivers it on a daily. He talks about death like it's just another part of life. Some time ago, his older sister had passed. Shortly after, it was his first cousin. Then it was his uncle Philandus. My father and his uncle were closer than the hands of time at 12 noon, but the news had darkened his heart like 12 midnight. Pop's voice, mundane, said he had just died on Monday. And I just spoke to him the previous Saturday. 2 days later, his body's cold. It couldn't have been a Saturday. Shortly after, cancer called his best friend Curly home. See, Pops is a preacher who in the last few years has flipped through more obituaries than Bible pages. He's watched his friends transcend from their Genesis to their Revelation, reached an age where the term, if God's willing, wheels off his tongue like every 2 sentences. See, life is a short sentence, but then you're sentenced to death, so it's hard to talk to a parent who feels like death is walking distance away, speed walking with a pep in his step. Our father's been calling folks home like the street lights are on, but when the Grim Reaper has roll call and the call of Jimmy Wilson rolls off his tongue, I'll be livid if I didn't do my due diligence while he was living. And his granddaughter, my daughter, listen, this heifer, she's been Jerry Maguire since the pacifier. You gotta show her the money. She'll call and ask to speak to his pocket. She'll call and ask from him before she asks for him. But at his funeral, I guarantee you, she gonna be the biggest nut basket, spilling her cracked heart all over the casket. The point is, we tend to take parents and grandparents for granted until they're paranormal. Instead of making parents a normal part of our schedule, we break off bite-sized bits of our time at our convenience. But when they're cold, and the coroners staring in their corneas, we'll be cradled up in a corner convulsing because we didn't devote the time. Imagine the feeling when the entire top row of your family tree has lost all its leaves. You look around, your parents are the oldest leaves left and fall is coming. At some point, our parents will be mentioned in past tense. Their cell phone numbers will be handed off to surviving life holders on Earth. Old conversations will become collectibles. Voicemails that were reluctant to delete will collect dust in the phone like antiques. And every time we press one to replay, we'll be forced to reflect, and lightning bolts of regret will burn through your chest for all the times you slid that dial to reject. You'll be forced to wear backpacks loaded with bad decisions. Images and smiling faces will serve as memory of the time wasted. So whenever they ask you to call more, they're not looking to confiscate your schedule. They're just looking to be added to it before they become soil additives. So try not to answer with an attitude. Pick up the cell with deep exhales, eyes rolling like tumbleweed, because you'll be on the ground rolling when that casket is lowered onto those rollers and rolled into the hearse. And I understand that all death hurts. But I imagine it's 10 times worse when you know you hadn't shown them their worth. Every day we live is one day less that we have left. So don't postpone or put love off. Just leave it on the playing field. Because when it's over, there's no next Sunday. What'd you think?
Amazing. Truly amazing. I watched you grow up and giving you life and traveling together, the love. I appreciate you very much. Maybe oftentimes we don't get a chance to pick up the phone and say those things, but I watched you. Very intellectual. You are everything that any parent or father would want to be accompanied with, and that person is you. And I thank God every day for you. I prayed for 20 years, knowing that at any time, many young men that went to war didn't come home. But I thank God that He brought you back. And that makes me very proud of you. A very humble individual is you. And I thank God for that, you know. And this is my heart, not with my lips, you know. My heart speaks that. And I really appreciate you more and more each day, you know, because you are the epitome. I mean, it was 7 Jimmy Wilsons. And out of those 7, I named you every day because it was too many of us. And they couldn't watch us all at the same time.
See, that's inside game, man. You know my name was Edward. Well, go ahead.
Can I laugh?
No, you good. You good. You good. I appreciate it. Okay, cut. I gotta keep my gangster intact. Appreciate it, Daddy.
No problem, man.